Is it visible, madam?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
very clear. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. I am presenting a case of postponed contracture of the elbow. My patient is a 70-year-old female patient, resident of Kochi, with who comes with complaints of deformity of the right elbow since 1 year and inability to extend the elbow since 1 year. She had history of scald burns 1.5 years ago due to hot water falling on the right arm and forearm. And then she was immediately taken to a local hospital where admission and conservative treatment was done with daily dressings. I do not have information on the duration of the stay and in the hospital and at home and the time taken for the wounds to heal. I would like to ask those. There is no history of splinting or compression bandaging or scar massage or physiotherapy during or after the hospitalization, and no history of surgeries done during the treatment. Um, she has gradually developed scarring and tightness over the right elbow and has enabled to fully straighten her right elbow. There is no history of ulceration or irritation of the skin over the elbow or the scarring, reddening of the scar. Um, there is also scarring over the right forearm and the hand, but no deformities as such, and no other deformities elsewhere on the body. Uh, General physical examination, she is vitally stable, conscious oriented. Uh, Local examination, there is a hypertrophic contracture band on the medial aspect of the right cubital fossa extending from 3 centimeter proximal to the medial epicondyle to 5 centimeters distal to the medial epicondyle longitudinally and horizontally extending from the medial epicondyle to about 5 centimeters lateral to the medial epicondyle. The scar also extends about 3 centimeters proximally from the upper limit onto the medial aspect of the arm and around 3 centimeters distally onto the medial aspect of the forearm. The cubital fossa and the lateral wall of the cubital fossa are free, and the skin surrounding the scar is normal. The scar is hypertrophic with variable with hyperpigmentation and a central depigmentation or hyperpigmentation. There is no evidence of ulcer or erythema on the scar. She also has a single hypertrophic scar on the distal forearm, around 3 to 3 centimeters, but no deformities present. Uh, there is no local rise of temperature. The scar is non-tender and does not blanch on pressure. The brachial pulse could not be felt, but the distal pulses and sensation are intact. Uh, the range of movements, she is able to extend up to 120 degrees. Normal is around 150 degrees. She has an extension lag of around 30 degrees. Flexion is normal. Mm, and donor sites, I have examined both the thighs. There is no scarring. And local flap cover, I have examined the forearm. Forearm is free of scars on the lateral, volar, and the dorsal aspects. And arm, lateral, volar, and dorsal aspects are free. The true defect, I would like to measure the true defect of the true defect by marking the medial epicondyle, the lateral epicondyle as bony landmarks, medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle as bony landmarks, and the corresponding distances of the proximal and the distal limits of the scar from the acromion and the ulnar styloid process on the left elbow will be marked and the corresponding defect will be assessed. Uh, I would like to give a diagnosis of a postponed contracture of the elbow with mild restriction of movement.
Dr.
Uh,
Madhvi, I had a question at this juncture. You
yes, sir.
mentioned in the history this is a scald burn.
Yes, sir.
What was the liquid which caused the scald burn? Do you have any idea?
Uh,
Because see, normally a scald burn would not cause a burn of such a significant degree to cause such severe hypertrophy. So it is very,
Correct,
very
sir.
important to ask what is the particular offending agent in this case, because if it's a thickish gravy like fluid or a sabji or something, some very thick liquid, a thick oily liquid, the coefficient of heat is little higher, then it is a little different. What is the coefficient
Sir? Excuse me? Hello? Sir?
Madhvi?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir.
Yeah. Do you remember what is the from your chemistry? What is coefficient of heat? The coefficient of heat is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of substance to 1 degree centigrade. So the
Okay.
thicker the substance, the higher the coefficient of heat, and that the same amount of the equally hot substance with a higher coefficient of heat cause greater heat damage due to the higher caloric content. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what
Yes,
was
sir.
the? Do you have any idea what was the kind of nature of liquid? Because you see such a severe hypertrophic scar, your mind should run. Why a scar burn should cause such a hypertrophic scar? So when you ask the history, it is very important to know what was the offending liquid. It's very, very important. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Angelina, you want to ask something?
No, sir. Let her finish.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Madhu.
Okay, sir. I would like to do the routine investigation, and also an X-ray of the right elbow will be taken. And I would like to treatment would be
What do you expect to see in the X-ray of the right elbow, Madhvi? Why are you doing the X-ray?
um,
What do you expect?
sir, in the X-ray,
Is it
heterotopic.
just a routine thing that you always do in a contracture of the elbow, or you in this particular case when you have a good excursion of 120 degrees and free movement of the thing, do you really expect anything to see in the X-ray?
It is unlikely, sir, but around 30% of cases there tends to be heterotopic ossification.
Right. So you have to look at any unrelated abnormalities which may be present, and also heterotopic ossification could be one. Some other the bony abnormality. So always as a routine, it is always, though you don't expect, it is mandatory to get an X-ray of the underlying joint when you release a particular contracture, so that you are not caught unawares when you release the suddenly you find you cannot release it any further.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, Madhvi. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My plan of management would be to do an excisional release and a split thickness skin grafting, followed by splinting. For the That would be my first line of management. In case there is any exposure, it would be unlikely for any exposure of any critical. It would be unlikely. There would be excuse me. I wouldn't expect much exposure of bone or any other vital structure here, but in case I would like to go ahead for a subcutaneous pedicle based propeller flap of the vital fossa skin uh, as an option. Mm, yeah, I would like to go ahead with an excision of the whole scar and release of the contracture, and a medium thickness thin graft will be harvested from the thigh and fixed onto the right raw area. I will give a bolster dressing, and an above elbow plaster Paris slab will be applied dorsally with the elbow in complete extension. Um, that would be my first line of management. In case of exposure of any bone, which is very minimal, I would like to go ahead for a subcutaneous perforator based propeller flap. In this, a diamond or a near diamond shaped flap will be designed on the cubital fossa by planning in reverse technique, and this will be raised based on the central subcutaneous axis, and it will be islanded. The flap will be rotated by around 90 degrees and cover the critical area. I expect no critical raw areas proximally and distally, so I would like to just do a grafting on those areas.
Madhvi, are you aware that when you just do an incisional release of a contracture of this sort, where the surrounding area is nice and healthy, the hypertrophic scar, distal and proximal to the incisional release, invariably settles down over a period of time. There are papers to suggest that once you have and a release and broken the contracture line, these hypertrophic scars, proximal and distal to the contracture release, will settle down with pressure garments and even otherwise. So it is one method you can even offer the patient if he's not in a hurry to look good, because you will be obviously leaving a larger donor site morbidity. You'll be leaving a big scar with a bigger graft on the donor side. You must discuss with the patient that if
Yes,
you're
sir.
not in a hurry, you want a lesser donor scar, we will do an incisional release. Trust me, you in a matter of 6 to 9 months time, the hypertrophic scar will settle down, and you will have with pressure garments a fairly good result, aesthetical and functional, without the donor site morbidity.
Yes, sir. So the reason I chose excisional release was the range of movement or restriction of movement is around 30 degrees, a mild form of elbow contracture. This is more aesthetic than functional. Keeping a hypertrophic scar and the area of depigmentation looks a bit unhealthy, and that's why I preferred an excision of the whole scar and then to resurface the whole area with a split thickness graft.
And
And
Madhvi, you're right. What you have said is absolutely right, but you must discuss it with the patient, and this could be one of the options which you can offer. You're
yes,
absolutely right.
definitely,
Your
yes,
plan is
definitely,
right. There's nothing wrong with your plan. Go ahead.
yes.
What are the non-surgical methods of managing this process?
Madam, there are two methods of management. One is a 3-point splinting, and the other is the skeletal traction. This is more often used when the limb length is small, um, especially in children. 3-point splintage is wherein an elbow extension splint is applied with main with pressure or what is it? Um, Pressure applied on three main points. One is the elbow, dorsal, and the other are the volar aspects of the distal forearm and the distal arm. So, the by increasing the um, uh, by tightening the elbow splint, we will be able to control the expansion of the extension of the limb. That is one method. The other method is a skeletal traction method, wherein an external fixation is applied and a load of around 15, um, a load of around 10 to 15 kgs is applied, and there is a progressive lengthening or extension of the elbow contracture. The main disadvantage with these two procedures is that there is a frequent breakdown of the scar and ulceration, and hence these are not so commonly preferred. Madam.
So actually, you said the lag is only 30 degrees. No, what is the range of movement of elbow?
150 degrees, madam. Zero,
0 to 150
0 to
is the range.
150 degrees. Yes, madam.
Suppose the patient has a range of 30 to 130. That is enough to maintain activity. Only for the aesthetic purpose, you would like to have a straight elbow. Otherwise, a straight elbow is not going to be functionally useful. You want an elbow which is functionally flexible.
Yes, madam.
What are the other movements that take place in the elbow?
There is the proximal radioulnar joint,
Hmm.
um, supination and pronation.
It has
Yeah.
85 degrees of supination and about 75 degrees of pronation
Mhm.
taking place. Okay. So,
Yes, madam.
so you would want an elbow that is capable of flexing and to carry out activities of daily living.
Yes,
So
madam.
just by giving a straight elbow which is not flexible is not going to help. So you would
Okay.
like to maintain just a pressure garment for this patient.
Yes, madam. Post grafting, a pressure garment of is required in order to maintain
How
the
old is this scar? How old is this scar?
The scar is 1 year, madam.
1 year. Is it
Yes.
still blanching?
Not blanching, madam.
It's not blanching.
No, madam.
Okay. So if it is blanching and it appears pink, so if it is like that, what can you try?
In that time, I can try splinting and compression bandages can be applied
Compression
to
garment. Is there
compression
any
garment.
injectable therapy that you can try?
Physiotherapy is
Injection. Any injection that you can try?
injection. Triamcinolone. Triamcinolone.
Triamcinolone can be tried to reduce your
To
hypertrophy along with your silicone gel sheet,
yes,
pressure
ma'am.
garment,
Okay.
and emollient. Okay. So these can be a non-surgical method of trying to deal with that. And as I said, incisional release can solve the issue of the minimal contracture you have, and applying a pressure garment over it can completely realign the scar. Actually, what type of collagen is there in these type of hypertrophic scars?
Type 1, madam.
Okay, so you would like to, that is, by trying to inject or trying to apply the silicone gel sheet, what are the changes that take place?
With
What is the mechanism of action?
with the pressure garments, the continued pressure will promote the realignment of the collagen fibers and
How is
also
the collagen fiber in the scar? It is in whirl pattern.
world
Okay.
pattern. Yes, ma'am.
So it has to be realigned more horizontally to get a better supple scar.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
can take place by your compression. Secondly, by your silicone, what will be your mechanism of action?
Madam, silicone is known to promote my
It is to raise the temperature, maintain the moisture, and maintain the cellular hydration, promoting more of realignment of the collagen burst. Okay. So those methods may try to again improve the appearance of the scar. And by excising and putting a skin graft, definitely there is another chance of the scar going in for the edges of your graft can again cause hypertrophy. Again, there can be a color smart. Suppose you want to really get a very, very aesthetically appealing outcome, what can you do? We're telling about the flaps, no?
Yes, madam.
What can you do to avoid
Pardon.
scar?
A local flap.
Expander for the you can place an expander there and expand that and bring that so and then expand this so that the scar will be a very thin. So use of an expander can be right to avoid a mobilizing of flap and because graft, whatever said and done, will have a different appearance unless you integrate it with a dermal substitute and then put a graft. Otherwise, definitely the graft will
in this case, I think, see, Dr. Angelina, we can ask Madhvi, would you like to put one tissue expander in this case, or would you like to put two tissue expanders? Suppose we decided to put a tissue expander, would you put one tissue expander or two tissue expanders? And you have to explain why.
In this case,
Hint is the joint, the scar is straddling a joint.
yes, sir. I would have to put two tissue expanders.
Yeah, because it will be difficult to manage across the joints. Always better to put two small ones. They're straddling a joint. And when you put in an expander, have you seen expanders being put in your unit?
Yes, yes, sir.
So, how much percentage of the volume of the expander is expanded at each time?
10 ml each time. Initially around 10 ml.
No, it's percentage. Madhvi, it's percentage. Normally at each sitting, you instill about 10% of the total volume of the expander. If the expander is 300 cc, you put 10%, 30 cc. But the primary expansion, you can even exceed that. Have you heard of hyperinflation at the time of removal of the expander? Rapid expansion at time of removal of expander. Have you heard of this? And what is it?
Rapid expansion at the time of
At the time of removing the tissue expander, there is a procedure called rapid expansion. Have you heard of it? And have you heard of it? If you have, what is it?
One minute, sir.
Take your time. There is no hurry. Take your time. This Madhvi, I'd like to tell you the answer. It's a procedure under anesthesia just before removing the expander. You can hyperinflate it by 50 to 75 or 100 cc depending on the size of the expander, and it helps. And when there's a recoil, a little bit of retraction happens after the thing. It takes care of that. So this is normally done when you remove the expander. Now, what are the common complications of tissue expander? Dr. Angelina, I think it will be nice to let her answer these questions. I hope you're okay with it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what are the common complications of tissue expansion, Madhvi?
So rapid expansion could result
Rapid
in
expansion, normal expansion. Yeah, normal expansion.
normal expansion. There is a leak, sir.
When you put in an expander, what can happen?
When expander place, there could be during injection, there could when we inject fluid, there could be puncture of the expander. Then there could be leak from the tissue expander. Then overinflation could result in necrosis of the overlying tissue.
If you don't follow aseptic precaution, go ahead, Dr. Angelina.
Okay. Expander infection.
Infection, yeah, one of the commonest. Yeah.
Exposure of the expander, that is whatever implant that you have, the expander that you have kept dehiscence, and the extrusion of the expander. And of course, inadvertent, that those are all your iatrogenic things, function of the expander, and when you do it. Complications can be ischemia, leading on to necrosis of your skin flap. So that can be again that. All those precautions that you have to take.
Madhvi, how often would you call the patient for expansion? How often? Every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 5 weeks, every 6 weeks?
Weekly. I will call the patient weekly, sir, for injecting the for the expansion.
You call the patient weekly, you put in a 300 cc expander, you injected 30 cc, you were injecting the next time 30, the third time when you're injecting 30 cc patient, you injected only 10 cc and patient starts complaining of pain. So what will be your response to that? Will you tell the patient now, don't scream, tolerate a little pain and inject the remaining 20 cc?
No, sir.
And what will you abandon the procedure and explain to the patient that we'll have to wait?
I would like to wait. I would not give the injection that day. I would like to wait. Uh, it could be that there has been rapid expansion in the previous session, so I would like to wait for it to settle and then go ahead with the next session.
And then would you like to decrease the frequency of injections, inflation then? Would you then like to call the patient less frequently?
Yes, sir, definitely. I would like to then call the patient once in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so.
Suppose there is exposure of the tissue expander, what is your plan of action?
I would have to remove it, sir.
Yes. Remove it, and then how soon after removal would you like to plan another expansion? Or would you not plan another expansion in the same patient?
I would not place the expander in the same place, and I would like to wait for a few months before I plan the next tissue expansion. Probably 2 to 3 months.
Dr. Angelina, please go ahead.
Okay. Now, you were talking about the X-ray, no? You wanted to know whether there is heterotopic ossification.
Yes, madam.
Okay. What is the pathology of heterotopic ossification?
There is ossification of the tissues caused due to micro movement and also the in an already flexed and contracted elbow, the micro movements can result in increased ossification of normal tissues, and that is known as heterotopic ossification.
Where is the ossification seen?
Most commonly in the elbow, in the
in which tissue?
no,
Mostly in the
capsule.
joint capsule and
Capsule.
the muscle.
Yes, ma'am.
How will you see that in the X-ray?
There will be foci of what is this? There will be calcification seen in the in areas other than the joint, like fluffy. White patches. There will be ossification seen within the normal tissues, madam, and that will be visible on the
X-ray. In the X-ray, you will see a radio opacity in the soft tissue plane, that is beyond your bone. In the capsule or in the soft tissue plane, you will be seeing some radio opacity. So it can be usually, it looks very diffuse. And what is the usual incidence? It's about 1 to 3%.
Yes, ma'am.
It can happen even when there is no direct burn over the elbow. That can be burn elsewhere, but still it can happen. How will you manage a case of heterotopic ossification?
Is the treatment medical or surgical?
It is predominantly medical, sir. Oh, 1 minute, sir.
Medical or surgical?
Sorry, I
Madhvi, I'm telling you, predominantly the treatment is surgical. Now, if there is surgical treatment, when would you like to go in for surgery? How many months after the initial injury, or would you like to go in for the treatment? And radiologically, how will you decide whether the patient is ready for a surgical release?
I would like to go ahead with a surgical release. Once the ossification is when there is maturation of the ossification, I'll have to wait for the maturation of the and followed by release.
Correct, Madhvi. What we normally see on the X-ray is there is maturation of ossification seen radiologically, and there's a definite fibrous capsule which is formed. That's when the patient is ready for the heterotopic ossification surgical release. Now, that's what we are asking is when after the normal time of maturation of the bone for heterotopic ossification release, normally. What happens if you go for an immature, when the bone is immature and if you release, what will happen?
It will recur.
Recurrence will happen. So, what is the time would you like to wait for maturation to occur? Normally, how long does it take?
It takes around 12 to 13 weeks.
Weeks or months?
Sorry, it's 12 to 13 months.
Yeah, it will take 12 to 13 months, at least 12 months before your thing is ready for ossification. Dr. Angelina, would you agree with that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Usually, there is a high incidence of recurrence. So, you wait till that is mature and then try to completely remove it. And then they have tried to cover it, flap cover, so that there is no recurrence.
Yeah. Madhvi, can you guarantee a patient no recurrence once you've done a surgical release of a heterotopic ossification?
No, sir.
So would you like to counsel the patient? I think you not to counsel the patient that we are going to do this release, but we are not sure. There is a possibility that there may be no recurrence or a slight recurrence. You may have to go in for another similar procedure after some months, or you may get away with it. Yes. Right, Madhvi?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Suppose the patient has heterotrophic ossification. Do you try to actively mobilize the patient? You passive mobilization or active mobilization?
Madam, in heterotopic ossification post-release, active mobilization will be better than passive, madam.
Yeah, you allow the patient to do the mobilizations themselves. Don't try to passively stretch because this is again aggravate and increase that amount of hemorrhage like that, and that will result in. So you allow the patient to advise the patient how much of range of movement can be done, and actively allow the patient to mobilize rather than passive.
Yes,
that has to be avoided.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else, sir?
No, I'm done. I think Madhvi's done a good job. She's explained most of the things.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhvi.
Okay.
Dr. Lakshmi is there or?
Yes, sir.